Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the stuff we learned in HAMS as far as the setup goes. There's a lot of ways to do a lot of this, and even within HAMS we had multiple different ways of doing things, but I'm going to walk through what we did for Rainier and what I liked and some of the simple things that I liked, and I'll try to highlight some of the things that are optional to begin with, basically where we're roping up. Before I do that, I'll go through stuff that I carried. I like, everyone can do their own thing here, whatever works, but I like having for green lockers and carabiners in general for the standard use stuff, and then red-ish carabiners for rescue. On the rescue, I've got the standard foot prusik. There's a big ball right here that I don't actually attach. That's one of the optional things, is if you're a middle person, you can attach it on one side, tuck it into your pocket so it doesn't get in the way. I actually like just having it over here, and we did a crevasse practice where we kind of went into crevasses, and you can just whip it out, put it on the rope and use it. A PAS for anchors, webbing as well if you're building anchors off of pickets. Lightweight ATC, good for rappelling and belaying. A pulley. The micro tractions are really good for the pulley systems for 6-to-1s because they're very convenient, and they essentially replace a carabiner or a locking carabiner and an ATC. But you certainly have to be careful, obviously, which direction you put the teeth. On our practice, when they did a C-drop to me in the crevasse, I set this up in pulley mode, didn't think much of it, and as they were pulling me up, it hit something on my chest harness, knocked it out of pulley mode, and they couldn't pull me any longer. So something to be aware of. The last thing, I also had this tib lock, and actually I didn't know this, I haven't had a lot of use with it, but if you don't put the right kind of carabiner through here, it'll tear your damn rope sheath up pretty good. So as I was attempting to ascend during our practice run, I probably did 10 to 12 different ascent moves, and then on the last one this just went ripping down the rope and it tore the sheath up. So not sure how I feel about that. As far as the number of lockers go, I think between 6 and 5 was a pretty good consensus, and we'll walk through why in a second. So that's what I've got on my harness, Alpine harness. Okay, so now we're going to go to the rope. One of the things that it took a while to get used to is, alright, so you've got a rope, you've coiled it out, uncoiled I should say, it's fine, it's ready, and you're trying to set up for rope teams. Say this is a 60-meter rope. The math actually is pretty simple. If you're a 4-person team, add 1, and so 5, and divide the length of the rope by 5. So 180 divided by 5 is 45 feet. And that means to start, you're going to want basically 45 feet on the end before you tie your butterfly knot. I'm 6 feet tall, so I could just do about 7 arm lengths. We'll do it if you're 3. If you have a rope team of 3 and 180-foot coil, you divide 180 by 4, right? 3 plus 1, and then you're going to have 45. Is that what I just did? Did I say that for 5? All right, 5, sorry, is 36. So it would be 180 divided by 5 is 36. So it would be 6 rope lengths. So I'm going to do the 6 rope length version and do all that for coil. So real quick, there's 1 length, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'll put my butterfly knot here. My bulldog's holding my rope. Like a lot of things, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, but one of the efficient ways to tie a butterfly, if you have mittens on and you don't want to deal with it, is to reach under, put 3 bites over your hand, reach under, grab the middle, try to get some slack on it. This is, by the way, a big line. This isn't actually an alpine rope, so this might be a little bit painful, but pull under, and then you're going to go over all of them, and then pull under again. And the way you can test that is grab on and pull really hard on the 2 strands, and it shouldn't move or do anything like that. So that's going to be my tie-in point. Tie-in point, I like using a big carabiner, big pear-shaped carabiner. I don't know why, actually, it'd probably be more efficient to use a smaller one, since you should actually never really come out of this, but whatever, I digress. So I got that on now. I'm going to go ahead and start dressing up. Over here, again, my green stuff, this is my standard use stuff. I've got my chest harness. You know, they have dedicated harnesses you could buy. Just make one out of webbing or Dyneema, whatever. And I just kind of daisy chain this on there. But just cross it over, put it on, put over your head. And one thing I learned early on is I actually don't usually use a locker on my chest harness, by the way. Is that if you don't attach your chest harness to your main harness and someone takes a fall, one of two things can happen, or I'm sure many more, but you can get hit in the teeth with the carabiner. We were taught that. What actually happened to me is this thing rode up so high, it was actually digging into my neck and causing me to kind of black out. So what I learned from that is I just girth hitch a little piece of webbing around my main harness, clip that in. That way, if someone falls, my teeth are safe and I'll be somewhat comfortable. All right, so next we've got the, since I'm going to be on the end, I'm going to have my prusik on, you know what, I'll do that actually afterward. It'll be easier to show that way. So, all right, so I've got my harnesses on, my chest harness, essentially my regular harness. I'm tied into my butterfly. Let's go ahead and coil the rope. All right, so do this kind of a couple different ways, but basically just do like an arm length, about like that or so, and just go until you run out. Well, not until you run out, until you have a long enough tail to actually tie off, and try to keep it tight and clean. So that's too long of a tail. Let's see what happens. Not long enough, so I'll roll with that. All right, and then you can just kind of tuck it behind you like this, and then you can kind of actually, you know, what I forgot to do before that is do a figure 8 on bite down at the end right here. So let's see if I can do this over the top with a long enough tail to actually. I tied another hand. I tested. Long enough tail. You're going to want to do figure 8 on a bite with the follow through, and tie that in to your harness. And that's if you know there's a rescue situation, you could ditch this coil and you're still tied in if you need to pay out additional rope. Let's see if I actually created a long enough tail here. Yay. And you know, just dress your knots, get them nice and clean, which I'm not going to spend that much time doing for this or whatever, but let's stop around or whatever. Alright, so there's my there's my not dressed figure 8 follow through the end of the rope. Super dressed. Again, this rope is old and really kind of unwieldy. Alright, so I've got this slack now, and basically you just want to cinch this down. There's a couple ways of doing it. You do an overhand. Actually, I'm not sure if this is okay. It can kind of get in the way, but a couple times I actually just ran it through my chest harness carabiner. But if you get it tight enough, it's not really going to matter. But for now, I'll just do kind of an overhand. I think if I can get it in. Actually, I'm not going to have enough slack. Oh shit. So pull this up here and okay, let's take one out. There. So now we have all the slack in the world. We can do a long overhand, wrap it around your coil, and just kind of put it through whatever. Get it clean and out of the way. Alright, so this is the direction of travel, right? My rope team is over there. You are going to want to run this up through your chest harness. Also, clip in. Now we can go ahead, put my prusik on. This is one of those things where we had a couple of different ways of doing this, different disagreements or whatever, but I'm not sure it matters terribly as far as to where you put this. Also, I need to be mindful of how many, little prusik coils you do, which is just simply a function of the thickness of your of your prusik cord versus the thickness of the rope. 3 is kind of standard in general, but you basically want to test it by just yanking on it and seeing if it'll actually slide down the rope. So I think I've had one occasion where it did. Now I'm going to run it to this other locker right here, and of course, every time you do this, you're going to actually lock it. Sorry, I cut myself off. One of the I guess variables is put the prusik below your chest or above it, and one of the considerations was if it was above your chest and you took a fall, you might have actually your weight on your prusik and not on the rope, which would make it kind of harder to disengage it, so you can actually start ascending the rope if necessary. Okay, so I've tied in. I've got my prusik on. As far as the length of it, you can see it's kind of large. I've got some smaller ones too, but that's actually by design. I forget the exact length of the circumference of it, but this one is about 2 feet in diameter or so. Okay, and I've got this on. Alright, and so now I'm going to put my pack on. There's also another option there if you want to put your pack on under your coil or over your coil. My limited experience, I like doing it over the coil, because if you fall, one of the first things you do is you're going to drop your pack anyways. But that adds an additional step, which we'll go over in a second, and that is you're going to want your pack to be under your rope. Kind of common sense thing, but with so much crap to manage, common sense kind of goes out the window, especially if you're cold and your hands are numb. So bottom cinched under here. Try your best to get your hip belt above your harness. I also had a situation where I had it on the harness, specifically on some axes, and that killed me one time. So don't do that. And up here you can go over. And lastly, tighten that. But lastly, the pack, yet another bit of disagreement, if you will. You have 3 options. You can go all the way down to your main tie-in point or your main harness point. You can go to your chest harness, which some of our leaders didn't like. Actually, what I liked was just to put it on the middle right here like that. And so the reason you have this on is for a couple of reasons, right? Is if I fall in right now, one of the first things you can do, getting your wits about you, trying to figure out if you can self-rescue, is you're going to drop your pack like that. And what that will actually end up doing is actually, you see it by there, but get your pack and get get your stuff squared away. You can actually attach it to the coil. Take this off, attach the pack to it, and that'll weight the coil or weight the rope that's beneath you, so you can actually ascend it and it's not moving as much. So it's a big mess. There's a whole lot of ways of doing this, but I think in general this is how we rolled for Rainier this year, 2021, for CMC. Thanks.